Tomorrow, if we have any hopes of trying to win the title this season, we have to get a win and show a great performance against Man City tomorrow. In today's video, I'm going to discuss 5 key things we can do to beat Man City tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoy. Smash that like button, and without wasting any more time, the first thing we need to do is play with bravery. Now, this was the one big aspect we lacked in the home game this season against them, where we lost 1-0 to Man City, and for me, this was the most uncharacteristic performance I've ever seen under Thomas Tuchel. In that home game, we had 0 shots on target throughout, and I guess the experiment to combine WERNER and Lukaku just didn't end up working in a game of that magnitude. It was way too easy for Man City to overload us in the build-up phase. They were constantly able to create 4v3s and 3v2s against us, and most importantly, you guys, they forced our wing backs all the way back, constantly having us playing in a 5-3-2. We had no consistent outlet to attack, and our wing backs couldn't get up the field either. So we can't play the same way against them. And we have to go back to the principles we used to beat Man City 3 times last season in 3 different competitions. And those things were our use of a mid-block system, which basically allowed us to minimize the spaces in behind us to, of course, reduce the counter-attacking threat of Man City. We outpressed them severely. We pressed them with intensity and numbers. We pressed them high when we had to, winning the ball back in Man City's half. We were incredibly aggressive in our tackles. We were incredibly aggressive in our 1v1 duels. And we were incredibly aggressive with our runs off the ball. In particular, the use of many vertical runs to stretch Man City's back line. And of course, having that offensive support in the final third to take advantage of the spaces being opened up by Man City. And this is how, for example, we saw that famous Mason Mount through ball to Kai Havertz in the Champions League final. Is there any surprise that in our home game this season, when we did revert back to a 3-4-2-1, we start to have a bit more threat in our game? Tomorrow, we can't show Man City any respect whatsoever. The second key thing is the return of the 3-4-2-1. Now, as I said earlier, one of the key reasons as to why we lost against Man City this season was the separation they created between our 2 strikers up front and WERNER and Lukaku, of course, and the spaces with our midfield, as there was no link-up play to get the ball to these guys in dangerous areas. When using a wing-back system, you can't have your wing-backs not getting up the field, because if they can't do that, you're going to lose that midfield battle, and you're going to stop creating chances in the final thirds. And the reason why 3-4-2-1 is key is due to our cams, who have to be, for me, Mason Mount and Kai Havertz. When looking at the heat maps on screen right now, you can see the amount of positions and zones that Mount and Kai Havertz were finding down the left-hand side and the right-hand side too. Both Kai and Mount ran the channels incredibly well against Man City, which stopped City's fullbacks creating those wide overloads which Man City are very famous for under Pep Guardiola. Using the Champions League final as an example, both Mount and Havertz played off the shoulder of Man City's fullbacks, positioning themselves in the half spaces where they could use their pace in behind to stretch Man City, and by doing this meant that City's fullbacks could not push up the field as much as they wanted to. Off the ball in the defensive phase, both Mason Mount and Kai Havertz dropped deeper to make a 5-4-1. Tucking in field as well to help give us more support in those central areas, and by doing so, you guys, this essentially forced Man City's build-up play in those wide areas where we could allow our wingbacks to go 1v1 against City wingers, which essentially was the key reason behind we won the Champions League in Porto. Both Mount and Havertz have the ability to play in half spaces, they can stretch teams, they can play balls in behind too, they make intelligent runs as well, and they can play off a striker as well too, and I feel these 2 will be incredibly key in helping get Lukaku in the game tomorrow. We saw a glimpse of how Lukaku, Havertz and Mount can play against Arsenal earlier this season, and considering that we should have some vertical spaces to take advantage of in the game tomorrow, playing on the counter-attack, for me, these 2 are incredibly key. And I guess this segues nicely into the third key point, and that is Romelu Lukaku. Now, I know there's some talks surrounding the fact that maybe Lukaku should stay out this game, considering that when we used Timo Werner and his ability to run the channels and press, it did help us out in those 3 wins versus Man City last season. However, for me, I feel like Lukaku has a ton more on show that we still aren't fully seeing in the team right now. And for me, the fact that he's our most clinical striker too, with 8 goals and 21 appearances, is the type of stat that I just can't ignore too easily. Now, we have to sympathise slightly with Lukaku. Football at this level, you guys, details matter, and the fact that he didn't have a full pre-season with the team The fact that he's constantly playing with different attacking combinations, sometimes with a Ziyech, a Havertz, a Werner, a Mount, it makes it hard to build that repertoire with your teammates. Those details, that understanding, it adds up and it makes a big difference. But for me, Lukaku's strength tomorrow will be on the counter-attack. The key to unlocking Lukaku has always been that he's a player that needs support. He needs people to play off of him and he needs people to play with him. And we've seen this for the Belgian national team. When they play their 3-4-2-1, they have two number 10s playing close and off him. And of course, infamously at Inter Milan, his relationship alongside Lautaro Martinez acting as that deep line playmaker, allowing Lukaku to attack the spaces in behind. Our issue is that we isolate Lukaku way too much and consider that we use him as a focal point up front. How often are his layoff passes finding anyone? And how often are those layoff passes being taken advantage of? Who exactly plays close to him to do anything with them? The only useful thing we've had with Lukaku in the system currently is his ability to pin back opposition defenders, which has allowed the wing backs to run in behind and find good areas to take shots from, and of course for the 10s to make runs in behind as well. Ideally, you prefer your striker to be getting on the end of these moves, considering that Lukaku is one of the most clinical strikers in the books in Europe. And for me, I want to see Lukaku up front with Kai, Mason Mount, with Kai and Lukaku particularly being key at linking up with each other, where for example when Lukaku drops deeper to the right hand side, you've got Kai Havertz moving into that vacated space left by Lukaku, which would give Man City defenders a ton to think about and a ton to worry, as Lukaku really is known for his link-up play. Last season at Inter Milan, he recorded 10 assists on top of the many goals he scored last season, and that's why Antonio Conte spent so long on getting Lukaku to master his hold-up play and his play with his back to goal. What Conte realised was that the key to Lukaku is getting the best out of his technical ability, whereas I feel like there is an over-reliance on his physicality in this league, which is not fully getting the best out of him. There's a reason why last season in Serie A, he ranks number 1 for the most layoff passes made in the league. And if you guys don't believe me, many more astute football people have made that same distinction too. Here's a quote from Karl Rummenigge, of course the executive at Bayern Munich, where he said that Lukaku does not rely on his physique. Lukaku has technical skills that are not being seen so much in Manchester. At Inter, he is a man reborn. And Lukaku himself also stating last season that when there is a lot of movement around me, I am at my very best because I can create myself and I can be at the end of the delivery. And that's been the thing so far we aren't seeing. Against Man City, I feel like we can create those vertical runs, create those spaces to take advantage of Lukaku's late arrivals inside the box. Mobility is key. And if we do that, you guys, I feel like Lukaku can be our man in tomorrow's game. For the fourth key point, N'Golo Kante is going to be incredibly key. Now, we can't forget that world-class performance against Man City in the Champions League final, with N'Golo Kante picking up his 3rd Man of the Match awards after picking up 2 more in the semi-finals versus Real Madrid. In big games, Kante steps up, and essentially he acts as our cheat code in midfield. Kante was key in stopping Man City creating those central overloads, and Kante's ability to just position himself in incredible positions, his high IQ for tackles, defending, and his timing of the press as well, it gives us an advantage in midfield which allows us to win that battle a lot more than we actually should. Kante's defensive actions turn defense into attack, and the fact that he adds this defensive play with incredible technique, that ability to carry the ball, the ability to drive and play 1-touch, 2-touch, is it any surprise that he's becoming a bit of an Achilles heel for Man City? His defensive actions allow for the team to counter press a lot further up the field, and they allow for the wing backs to have more confidence to push further up, knowing that Kante can cover the spaces in behind them. I mean, you guys have been seeing the stats on show versus final appearance against Man City in the Champions League. He will be incredibly important for us tomorrow. And to end things with the 5th and final key point, I think that we're going to have to rely upon Kepa tomorrow. Now, I feel like Kepa has slightly been low-key a bit of an unsung player this season. When he's been called upon, he has been ever so reliable, and he's been showing that he's literally exercised his demons from the past, and now he's back to his confident best. After seeing that genius, alert, high IQ understanding of the game when he played Harry Kane offside, for me, that was the biggest indicator that Kepa really and truly is back in the game. One thing that's really impressed me this season is Kepa's ability now to have the confidence to leave his goal line and of course make himself bigger and closing down those shooting angles, which has been one of those Achilles heels for him in the past, and against a team like Man City that look to create those 1v1 opportunities against teams. You need your keeper to be big, confident, and time his ability to leave his goal line to deal with the danger. Personally, I feel like with the introduction of Mendy having actual world-class competition, and the fact that now he's off that media spotlight has allowed him to just regain that mental confidence, which has been the #1 thing that has cost his form over the previous seasons. Now I feel like he's back, and he's a guy I'm relying upon tomorrow to help us get that win. So you guys, there you have it. They're my 5 things we have to do to beat Man City. Give your thoughts and opinions. If you don't agree with them, what 5 things do you think we must do yourself? And on that note, I'm EFC, this is Blue Lines TV. I'll see you guys later with the match preview. Cool.